Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome back to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
I'm Mac.
And I'm Pepper.
And today, as part of Stone Timber, we are going to be doing our CHIPPI rating for
Pendulum,
which is Stonemeier's. I should have this figured out. Which game was it Which one was it released? So they've got 13 total at the time of us filming this. We go back in time. We go
11.
Yeah, go back Libertalia, Rolling Realms, and Pendulum, right? So, yeah, Pendulum was a kind of different feeling game from Stonemaier Games, I would say. It's a big change from a lot of them, which are, well, I guess I wouldn't say a big change, because they've had, like, worker placement type games before, but this one had a timed element to it, which you can kind of maybe tell from the title.
which is not super common in, I feel like, more strategic board game. You know, you get timers in like Pictionary, but you don't get timers in everyday, you know, Euro
Not in games
or
where you're managing resources.
Right, yeah, worker placement, managing, that type of stuff. Usually they're more party games when you start adding timers and stuff. It's kind of giving you a time period to maybe come up with certain words or something a lot of the time. But, it was a different thing. Is I think one of the first games too that we did have that had a timed element. I think since then we've only played a couple more. Forgotten Waters, which kind of but kind of isn't. And then
Dungeon
Academy, which is timed as well. But the thing in those ones are a lot simpler. So we will just get right into the CHIPPI ratings. So if you haven't been here before for a rating, that's kind of, we do core mechanics, history, investment, presentation, preference, and it factor. And we kind of use some mathematical formula to determine an overall score as well. So
it's like the Grammys, a secret and quiet, calculated formula we'll share with no one, but you have to understand the ratings.
Although I think there is a video out there with the explanation as to how it is done. So might have to redo that, make it a little bit better.
Dig back in our channel to find that.
But yes, we'll start off with core mechanics. I guess I'll just start off and just do a score?
Yeah.
I'll do score. I give it a 6.75. Because I think it is interesting that it's a timed thing. But I think with the timed element to this type of game, it makes it very easy to miss something. Because you really are only focusing on your own. And not saying anyone would intentionally cheat, but it's very easy to unintentionally cheat in the game because you might miss paints for something. It is, I think, in the rule book it says to pay your cost before doing the action and stuff, but I think that can still be easy to miss, even when you're bringing it down, or, oh shoot, did I do that? You remember you did something, but you can't remember if you added cubes or took them away. So I think that brings it down quite a bit for me. And then I would think, you can play this with an untimed option. I think for the timed option to work, you have a pretty simple base game to it. I don't think the worker placement and all the conversion of resources into kind of the overall points you need is too complex, but I think it needs to be that way. So I would say that it's not doing, the worker placement part isn't really doing anything too crazily new.
Not groundbreaking.
Because it's just pretty much interacting with the timers, timed elements. But
I put it at a 7.5, so just a little bit higher. And I really like it. I mean, like you said, it is simple, but getting the cards, kind of building your, I don't know what you would call that piece under the board. For the special color
you could say
banners.
It's a little bit of an engine, sort of, but not.
So I like that. I think I've learned to like that's important, and you should probably use it. I also think that the individual cards that you get as a player is really fun. It automatically will give you stuff, but then the challenge of getting them back in, I think, is a good aspect to the game. Especially if you're playing on the advanced side, you get some kind of, different cards than you would get on the base side, which just changes it up just a little bit. I do, and I don't like the timing factor. Like, I feel like the 2 minutes and 3 minutes is almost like too long, but there's a lot of cards that get you your people back, and so you have to strategize how to use that and stuff. And so I would say that overall it's good. It just takes a little while to get into the groove of it, and I wouldn't say that I am any master at this game by any means. I just live and play the game as it's timed. Zach is the master at it, but I do struggle a little bit with that little star piece where you have to get it in order to be able to score your points. And so unless people are, I don't know, I guess there's really no reason for you to take the star more than once, but you really have to work at it. And so if you were going to try and get it and someone gets it before you this round, well, you better hope that next round that you are set up to get it, because it's pointless. The whole game is pointless for you unless you get that little star. So
yeah, I had forgotten about that, so yeah, I think that solidifies my thing, because I wasn't sure if maybe I was giving it a little bit of a low, but I don't know what I think about that little piece. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's not that hard to do, but you could be trying to get it the one time and then have someone else snag it, and then maybe you're not set up for a future one. But the only thing I can think of it that's similar to that is like Gugong, but I feel like in that it's very easy to get that that required piece, and where in this one I don't think it's as easy. Yeah, I agree.
But I will say I do have a lot of fun with the timed aspect. I think, it's kind of a crazy table because you're bumping into other people's hands and you're standing up around the table and you're watching the timers, and so I think it's just a different vibe than a normal game, because you're not just sitting there waiting for the next player to go or whatever. Like, you have to be thinking, and so I think that's where the fun of it comes in for me, because it's just chaos, and some people don't like that, but like, it's just so refreshing sometimes to pull this out and just have chaos at the table instead of like calculated, conceptualized, like, here's my strategy, I need 2 minutes to think it out. Like, you do not have 2 minutes to think it out. You have 2 minutes to move your people around and then get back to that timer. So
yeah, I'm coming in right between you two at a 7.25. And I pretty much agree with what you guys said. The core worker placement aspect is pretty basic, but I think you need it that way to have the timed aspect to it.
Yeah.
The timed aspect is pretty unique. Like you said, all the chaos, but then every now and then there's a little lull for like 30 seconds as everyone's waiting for the...
It's like vultures. Everyone's like...
She's like, okay. But yeah.
That is a fun part about it, and I like how, you have to not only get that to meet the requirement of qualifying for a win, but you do have to meet the 3 different tracks that you're going up as well, which I do like how that's kind of different for each one. Yeah, I think it works.
So on to history. I will lead us off here. I have a 5.15, and that is because I played it 5 times with you guys, and I started a solo game, but gave up because it was just too much to manage. And I figured that was probably about a 10th, maybe 15% of the way through.
Okay.
All right, I have a... Sorry.
Yeah, just...
I have an 8.
Yeah, we've played it probably 8 times, so I think we have a good feeling of what our thoughts are on the game.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Then that gets us into investment. I'll let you go on that one as well, Pepper.
Investment, I gave this a 7. I think the time investment is really good in this one. The game goes by very quickly. Obviously, being a timed game, it's pretty much got a set play time. Unless you do play without the timed, in which case we could make this a 2-hour game.
Right.
But yeah, it's happening.
It's happening.
But yeah, that time investment's good, but like kind of replayability factors into this, and maybe how much you're getting, or at least for me. I don't know if there's that much variability. I mean, there are the different faction maps, but apart from that, I feel like every game's probably going to feel pretty similar, especially since you are forced to get one of those special achievements every game, and kind of forced to go up every track, and I don't know, I don't think there's that much to differentiate game from game.
Yeah. I agree with Jesse. I put it at just a little lower, 6.5. I'm not a huge fan of the setup of this game. It's probably just because it doesn't get pulled out like constantly, but I'm always kind of feeling like, okay, so these go here, and what do we need here, and what cards go out. I think it's that mainly that that end of round board, you know, where you kind of have to shuffle the certain cards and take 5 out and then put in the red cards or whatever. It's not that complicated, so it's really not that big a deal. But I would say it more so stems from, like you said, the replayability. I do feel like no matter what faction I'm playing, I'm pretty much always playing the same game. It's because, like, you always have to get a certain amount of those little circle colored banner thingies that represent, you know, your, I don't know, sway? Pendulum? I don't know. I don't know what you call it. But, yeah, I feel like I'm always going in kind of with the same... Well, to be fair, I did switch up my strategy the last time we played it recently, and that's because I don't remember what I was doing before, but it obviously didn't work, so I switched it up this time, and a little bit. There was one thing I did that was the same, and I did a little bit better than I normally do, but it was still chaos.
How'd you know, if you didn't remember what you did before, how'd you know it was
Because I remember not doing... I spent my entire first turn... I don't want to tell you guys, because then you're going to use it against me, but I spent my entire first turn getting those tableau cards for the engine building. Like, that's all I did, is because then I wanted to be able to use my next rounds with those built up to better effect and have more things in the future rounds.
That's a good strategy. I have to try that.
You know, it worked out okay.
Gave it away.
It wasn't perfect because I was still scrambling to get some stuff at the end, but it worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would give the investment a 7 as well. Just because, the length of the game is really short. It's easy enough to take out, and even when you're setting up the cards and stuff, it's not too much to go back to.
No.
And then once you get going in the game, it's really quick because it's timed. So that's a good thing about having the timed games. But I 100% agree with the characters. Even though you have the different hand of cards and they. Different amounts for each of the 3 tracks you're trying to go up on, they do feel very, very similar each game, and I don't feel like, oh, I'm using this one, so I'm going to do this strategy this time, because it just feels very much like the same game. But I think that just goes back to the kind of the simple nature of the underlying game. There's only so much you can really have different with the different factions, even the expert ones versus the or the advanced level versus the whatever. I don't know. I don't say easy level, but like the basic level. So yeah, it still goes around to 7 for me, I think, for investment, because I don't think the game has ever felt like, wow, this is going on far too long. Because no, it always feels like I wish it was just a little bit longer. In each round, sometimes it's like, oh, I want to get one more action in, and you're trying to maybe flip over the 2-minute timer one more time, but you also see that the 3-minute timer for the last time is just about to flip, and you're like, go, go, go. But
trying to distract people so they don't see it.
Right. Oh, what about this guy over here? Focus on that. But yep. So that's an investment. Then we get into presentation. And originally, when I saw the cover to this one, I was very excited as to kind of what would all be in this game, because I really liked the artwork and the look of the cover, personally. But then I come in with a 6.25 for the presentation of the game. I don't...
Hardcore.
Since it's a simple game, I don't know that the board needs to be overly beautiful, but I just really don't like the board at all. I don't know. It's not that it's like awful, like, oh wow, it makes me sick looking at the board, but it's just, I think it's well laid out enough. It just, and maybe it's just because you're playing so fast that you don't even really have time to even look at the board that closely. I mean, it's fine, but it's just nothing overly exciting for me. And then kind of the main things you're moving around, also, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter, but they're just cubes. Normal plastic cubes, so nothing really special about them. And the little sliders are plastic, and also I feel like, since this is a very fast-paced game, I like that how they work. They're the same type of things. If you've played Tapestry, they got one edge that's easier to slide on the frosted boards, and one edge that kind of grinds on it a little bit more, sticks in place a little better. And I feel like in this one, that even with the side that kind of catches a little bit more, you could potentially accidentally bump it. So that just, in this type of game, it's really important to know where you're at on those, because that could be another thing that's easily like, oh, I accidentally bumped it
like
too
But
far.
even if it was
most
double
important-
layered, if you hit it, it still wouldn't be in there. It could fly out easily.
Well, it could, yeah.
And if it's
I'm-
double
I'm-
layered, you'd take longer to move it.
Right, right.
But yeah, it is like the most important thing, the worst thing you could possibly
Yes.
nudge and
Right.
mess up.
Yes.
Right,
this is true.
and last but not least, also the sand timers.
Ah.
Sometimes they get stuck,
Yeah.
which is fine because everyone still gets the same amount of time. So I don't really care about that as much because I guess I don't plan it as like, oh, this is going to trigger 3 times, this is going to trigger that many times. I don't think about it like that, so I don't really care about that being that big of an issue. But I will say, when you have more than like 2 players, or well, it doesn't even. It probably could still be 2 players. But it just seems like when you're trying to move your meeples, no matter where you are on the board, there's always that potential to knock a timer over. And then, not that messes the game up that much, but it's just a little annoying when you're trying to speed and possibly you're not even focused on this area, but you accidentally knock that timer over, and it's like, well, I want to get my meeple there, but I should probably put this timer back in the spot. So I think it's just a little bit disappointing because, like, the cover, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be this, maybe not big, but larger type game where, you know, time is used in a bigger way, I kind of felt, but then it was kind of a smaller type feel. But, yeah.
Okay.
So not awful, but I was disappointed after the cover.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you.
Slap
on
that out of the
quite
way.
a few things.
Wow, she likes when the timers get knocked over.
I put it at a 9, and I did take it down because of the timers. The timers are good quality.
They are.
The colors are fun. You can
I do like the
easily
colors.
tell which one, you know. I will say maybe the green or maybe one of the sand timers is hard to see sometimes depending on your angle at the table, whether or not it's pouring.
Yeah, if you're across
But-
the table, it's almost impossible to see it.
Yeah.
If you're looking at across the table, the purple one or the green one, I think it's almost impossible to tell if they're moving.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you would have had that problem with any color other than black probably, just because black, you know, comes up so well, but you have to have different colors for the timers.
Just got a black rug like this on your table.
I disagree with you. I really like the artwork on the board. I feel like it's really simple and easy to follow. And I feel like that's essential because you're moving so fast in the chaos of this game. Like the icons, like the pieces of it, like I feel like I can follow them and it's not like there's not like a question. The cards maybe are the one spot, but I think that just is from my lack of playing it enough to fully, you know, get that. I enjoy the banners that the cards that you slip on your table. I think those are well produced. Yeah, I don't know. I like the little plastic guys. I like the purple votes. I think those are fun. I also like that the cubes are just cubes instead of money or whatever they are. It might take maybe a little bit away from the theme, I'll grant you that, but I think it's I think it's easy to grab the color you need because they're cubes and that, you know,
Easier to
cuts
count them as
down
well.
on your time. Exactly. Overall, I think the artwork is fabulous. I love the frosted boards. I love the plastic components. I'm not in love with the meeple shape, but I think they're fine. Yeah, so that's my thought. Like, the artwork that they put into it on the back of the cards, on the pieces that they did, and then, like, the individual player boards, I just felt like was kind of, like, an extra reach from what typical board games do with the artwork sometimes, but...
Yeah, I think I am siding with Mac here, even though the number may not seem it. I do have it at a 7, but I think that's more comparing it to much larger, grander games where this doesn't really have a lot to it. A lot is just artwork, but I do think all the artwork is very, very good. And I know when Jamie kind of hyped up the game, he posted pictures of different artwork, and that all looked really nice. Too bad they are just kind of on those province cards, which... You don't care about the artwork, you just want the symbols, and you pretty much cover up all the artwork anyway. But it still is pretty nice artwork, I would say.
I think yours is probably a fair split. You know, I may be probably too generous. You're probably maybe a little harsh.
I think it's probably just because...
He's like, I am not harsh.
I don't want to spoil some of our other CHIPPI's reviews, but I think I just maybe have a higher expectation from Stonemaier Games from some of their other games, and I think the more of the plastic type thing just isn't for me as much after seeing some of their other stuff. For some, I guess it's
There's
Instant
something about those
Tapestry,
plastic
but
boats that I like.
yeah,
Just a
I think
slab of
I
pink.
will give it that. I think for it being a timed game again, I think that gives a reason as to why there
Yeah.
were the cubes and the boats versus having them more
Right.
special or whatever.
Yeah, I
so
think
I can understand.
It's
that.
hard to compare it, I think, for exactly that reason, because you need simplicity in a game like this, but they made the simplicity beautiful, which I think is what pushed me to rate it higher. Sure, if I compare it to some of the other Stonemaier games, it's maybe not as beautiful, but I think for what it is, they made it
Yep.
work and beautiful.
That's fair.
So,
I agree.
not that you're wrong. I'm not saying that.
If that's I'm glad because I think that was part of it where I've seen some of that artwork and I was like, wow, this looks really really nice, and then it was just kind of a little bit of a disappointment, I think. So maybe I had hyped it up too much in my head and then got myself let down.
He never does that.
All right. Well, let's move on then to preference.
You gonna lead us off, Maggie?
Sure, I can lead us off. So I gave it a 6, so a little low, but I think we kind of spoke to, like, the replayability of it probably really isn't there. It's also difficult because I feel like this game, with the exception of Zach, and I don't know how Jesse feels, but I feel like this game takes some plays to get used to it and to kind of learn how to play. And then once you do learn how to play it, apparently you cracked it, because I don't know that Zach has ever lost a game. I might have won once, and even then it's questionable because it moves so
I
fast.
think when I was looking at the number of plays, I think I've only won 6 of the 8 plays.
Who won the other 2?
I don't remember.
Okay, so Jesse won and me won.
I'll check.
I'll
You keep
I'll
talking.
take both the wins.
Yeah. Well, I can too. I was being nice, but apparently, yeah. So I put it at 6. I think there are probably just other games that I enjoy playing more, but I will say, like I said, the chaos is fun of, to pull it off the table and bring it out. I don't want to do chaos all the time, every day, so that's probably why. But I think, it's fun. It's simple. It's
You each
basic.
had a win apiece.
I said so.
I didn't know if I'd ever won it. Must have been one of the first plays.
Yes, we're still figuring it out. So it's still a really great game. We just have so many games, and I think it's hard to rate games based on preference. I feel like now, because our collection has gone from like 60 to like 300, and so it's like how do you decide preference on what you want to take off? It's so dependent upon the day, the mood, the number of players, all of it. So this is probably by far the hardest thing for me to rate these days.
Yeah. Too bad it's the heaviest rank of all of the categories.
It does rank in the heaviest. So, yeah, do you want me to go to my preference?
Sure.
I give it a 7, because I do still enjoy what it brings. But, as I have written down here, it feels more like an exercise than a game. I don't know. We recently played the Search for Planet X as well. And I think these feel more like some sort of game type thing you could have on the computer, some thing that you're trying to beat, versus more of like a game. Like, I get a satisfaction from this game, but I don't know that it's like fun satisfaction. Like, once I've beaten it, I'm like, okay,
I don't know if this is
good.
fun, so I give it a 7.
Well, I mean, like in the same way, like I get enjoyment like out of Cthulhu Death May Die, like that just brings up like these fun moments where you're doing these huge crazy
I don't think
things.
with Pendulum, I don't think you realize you've had fun until the end of the game. Because in the moment you're like, ah! But afterward you're like, oh, that was fun.
Right, and that's what I have on here too. Even though it is, like I said, I don't think it's one that I would play twice because it's more of like that.
It's draining.
Exercise. It's just a different feeling than like other games. So I think that is what makes it hard. Because it sounds like I might be very negative on it, but there's something about it that it feels more like something different than a game. It is a game, but it just feels like something different to me.
I can see what you mean there.
I'm surprisingly coming in with the highest score here at 7.65.
Wow, I'm just using random numbers now.
It's just splitting hairs. How do you come up with this?
there's a method to this madness.
Further calculations are required.
But yeah, this is pretty much everything we've said. It's pretty chaotic, but also pretty generic at the same time. It's not one that I feel is that replayable, but since we don't play it very often, it's still kept at a little higher number just because of how unique it is.
Right.
And I do have lesser plays than you. With more, I'm sure the preference would drop a little bit. But for right now, it's kind of a nice break from the regular game.
Yeah, that gets us to our final category of it factor. I'll just say I'm coming in with a 5 because it's an interesting thing because we don't have many time games that we've played. So it's definitely a different take on that, and it feels like a different type of activity than a game for me. But it's still unique, but not necessarily unique in a way that's become like, oh, this is one of my go-to unique games to teach people.
Yeah, I put it at just a little bit higher at a 6.5. So I think there's just not a lot of theme to the game. I think if you take away the timer, it is just a really basic worker placement game. So I think the piece that brings it up is that it's a timed game. And so I think that makes it really unique because someone, wants something off the wall, kind of weird. I don't know, you have someone come over and you're like, what do you want to play? Well, let me pull this one off the shelf. And so that's why I think I put it up there, but it's not, it's a little bit difficult to teach sometimes. And so I think that's kind of where I was like, it's good. I don't know. So for mine, I just put 6.5 because I felt like, there are pros and cons to it everywhere, but I think that it's timed, and that the artwork is pretty are like the two biggest factors that I really like in that game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm coming in right there with a 7.
Nice. So that gives us some totals.
Total rating.
I wonder I might have the lowest. We can start with me.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've got a
Hater.
6.8 total rating. So with the 2 more plays, because history is kind of a 0.1 per play up to 10. So it'd get up to about a 7. So right in the middle there for me.
Yeah. Mine came to an even 7 here, even with those odd numbers thrown in there.
Well, then I have the win with a 7.2.
Nice. So yeah, we all have it pretty
That's
close then.
That's a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, we're all kind of right around the same area. I wouldn't say that that's too far off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of our current thoughts on Pendulum.
Yes.
The 11th game from Stonemaier Games.
Yes.
So yeah, we hope you've
Thanks,
made
Jamie.
we hope you've made it this far in the video, and if you have and you liked what we've said about Pendulum, give us a thumbs up, and if you hated what we said, also give us a thumbs up.
If you have questions about Pendulum, let us know in the comments down below.
Yes.
And give us a thumbs up.
And make sure to give that thumbs up.
And don't forget to check out our channel for all the other stone timber and, just about everything else that we have.
Yes, you can go back
on
and
there.
look at, in June we did some dinosaur-themed stuff. If that entices you, check that out. Otherwise, we hope to see you on our future videos. And as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling.
on our content.